So Cheryl Barnes is sitting next to me here. She leads our MIT-facing efforts in the Office of Digital Learning. And Janet Rankin, teaching the Learning Lab, is also on the call. And Mark Silas leads IS&T. Those three people and their teams have been working very, very hard for about a week to 10 days to prepare for we did not know what. We had various scenarios, as Ian described, and we didn't know what we were preparing for, but we knew we were preparing for something. It turned out we were preparing for yesterday's email. So we now know that starting on March 30th, MIT has said it will be teaching its classes remotely, and MIT is teaching 1,251 classes as of right now. So as Ian has said, this is very fast moving. We've been bootstrapping an effort out of nothing into something very, very quickly. And so we need everyone pulling together, and I know that all of you feel the same way. And so what I'm going to do in the next 10 minutes or so is sort of talk about give you a sense of how I wish that I could talk to all 1,000 faculty. I'm talking to the department heads at this moment. When we sent out a survey last week to all faculty and instructors, the first question on that survey was, what is your plan? And that's the first question that I will continue asking, and I'm going to say that over and over again in the next 10 minutes. We can't plan how you're going to teach your class if you're a faculty member. So our first question is, what is your plan? You have to engage and assess and plan. And then the second question is, how can we help? So we're here to help, but we're not here to make your plan. I will say from that survey, we just did a word cloud analysis, and by far the most common word among all the different kinds of things that people mentioned was Zoom. In that survey, there was a resounding request for Zoom, and I'm very happy to report that, courtesy of Mark Silas and his team's efforts, we have a Zoom site license that will be in place by the end of this week. So as Ian said, and as you all know, the initial guidance that we got was to focus on large lectures. So beginning more than a week ago now, I reached out to the people leading the 21 classes with lectures larger than 150 students. These are in 6 departments. The response was magnificent and very MIT. In economics, Sarah, Frank, and Ricardo, we talked back and forth as they triaged among the 3 of them who needed what video resources. Sarah was teaching her course for the first time, so she didn't have things in things from last semester. Ricardo realized he had been videotaped in a previous semester and could use those. They triaged. Peter Dermashkin in physics, when he got my first email, the reply was, I don't need anything. We've already been planning before you sent this email. We've got this. John Gabrielli in 900, so PCS. Cheryl and I actually got worried about John because we heard nothing back, 0, 0, 0, didn't reply. And it turned out because he had a perfect plan, he didn't need anything. But maybe the best response was from course 6. I said 21 subjects in 6 departments, but 11 of the 21 were in course 6. So they had 11 of these large classes. And frankly, I don't know how they did it. They prepared all 11, they got all 11 ready to do lectures, to replace the lectures by something else. They did almost all of it. I think we helped them in a variety of small ways, but the principal credit goes to course 6 for their subjects. And I'm very grateful to the departments that have stepped up like this. Okay, but at the same time, in the background, we on our side were planning for 1,251 classes, 1,000 faculty. So now it's time to focus on everyone. And the first question again is, what's your plan? And then how can we help? So please get people thinking for themselves and coming up with good solutions for themselves and connecting with us, and we will help. On the Zoom side, in addition to Zoom, Mark is expanding the Dropbox quota, getting a license for Gradescope and Slack. Mark and his IS&T team have been remarkable in what they've done in a very short time. Janet, Cheryl, and Kyle, Kyle is from Mark's office, have developed a set of resources from which everyone can learn how to do this. There's a new website that we announced yesterday. If you look on that website, you will see a mention of 24/7 support for instructors. Many, many thanks to Mark for this. There's an email address and a phone number, which will be 24/7 staffed. We don't promise that it will be staffed by the person with the deepest expertise at every hour of the day, but it will always be staffed. And that credit for that is to Mark Silas. with Cheryl and Janet's teams contributing to helping to triage the requests. And they even have a good phone number at 617-32-HELP-U. And the URL for the website is Teach Remote. Teachremote.mit.edu. Thanks, Cheryl. So we're here, we're trying to put in place the supports, but we need faculty and departments to actually be the ones to do this. We're not here to do things for you. We're here to support, to advise, to connect best practices, to provide infrastructure like Zoom. That's credit to Mark. So I'm just going to quickly rattle through so you get a sense of the fact that there are multiple options. This is done better on the website, but as you think about moving to remote teaching and remote learning, you can ask, first of all, about asynchronous versus synchronous. Asynchronous means you record something in advance, you put it on Stellar, they watch it. We have more than 200 classes which have been videotaped, and the videos are on OpenCourseWare. If they're still relevant, use them. If they're out of date, don't. We have more than 100 classes with MITx online courses built. Those of you who have built those, figure out how to use them, please. Anyone who lectures from PowerPoint or Keynote, you can just voice over your PowerPoint or Keynote using PowerPoint and Keynote software. Do that, please. You can use QuickTime to record audio over your computer screen. That's a very good and self-serve and easy solution. You can use Zoom to record lectures. We also have classrooms with automated video capture, but that's a scarce resource. We have 5 such classrooms outside Sloan and 16 in Sloan. We will be deploying those, and in particular, once in class, after this week, those classrooms will be empty and can be used by people to videotape in. And then the scarcest resource of all is MIT Video Productions, which are the people who send a camera crew. And we have that available, but they're a finite number of people. For synchronous, which means teaching or recitation or office hours, do it like we're doing right now. So use Zoom. That's the basic advice. All of this is done in more detail on the website and with links to supporting materials. Let me mention one example of someone who has really stepped up. Megan Perdue is the Digital Learning Lab Fellow in SHAS. She has developed a 26-slide deck and is going to be doing 1-hour workshops in each of the SHAS departments. Her first one is in history today, where she's going to teach SHAS faculty how to use Zoom to teach classes synchronously and asynchronously, and how to use QuickTime to record audio over your computer screen. Kudos to Megan. And this raises a suggestion that I will make. I think it would be great if each department had a faculty point person who has access to department leadership, and someone like a Megan. Okay, there's only one Megan, but it could be a postdoc, it could be a TA, it could be a staff person, it could be a Digital Learning Lab Fellow if you have Digital Learning Lab Fellows in your department. But if you develop, if you have someone like a Megan helping you, and we're trying to do that ourselves where we can. We have 20-something Digital Learning Lab Fellows. Megan is not alone, and I'm meeting all of them later today, and I will be talking with all of them about how they can help the faculty in their own departments. I'll make 2 more points and then hand off. The first point is that there's vastly more to our teaching than lectures, recitations, and office hours. Many of the best things that we do at MIT are left out if you stop with those 3 modes. So as I mentioned yesterday, we have labs, we have project classes, we have design classes, we have performance classes. These will be a harder challenge. And I would basically like to ask the faculty who teach these classes, on the one hand, don't be rigid. Nobody thinks you'll be able to reproduce the learning experience in your project class when the students are remote. But on the other hand, don't give up. Please be creative. And my advice is don't start by asking what can Zoom do. That's the wrong starting question. Start by asking what your learning goals are. And then ask, given my learning goals, okay, well, I can't hit that one, but these 2, maybe I can, and then try to figure out how to achieve some of your learning goals. I'll report 2 conversations I've had, which have actually, frankly, been inspirational in this regard. In 2007, we've been speaking with Amos Winter. We also spoke with Maria Yang in course 2 about, I forgot her course number. Are these quotes from Amos or Maria? The quotes I think they're Amos. So Amos and Maria, huge challenge, major shock. That's the first reaction. That's a week ago. But by now, what we're getting from them, I'll read from, these are quotes from emails, basically. They're working to find creative solutions and silver linings. They're figuring out ways of getting at some of the underlying goals that sometimes get lost in all the lab work. They're planning for CAD projects, and or they're thinking about having students build stuff with like cardboard boxes, things that they can find at home. So that's what I mean by engaging the creativity of your faculty, and we'll get partway. 813 is the other example I'll mention. I saw Gunther Roland yesterday in the hallway. He told me, of course, when they're remote, they can't twiddle the knobs on the apparatus. He teaches junior lab in the physics department. He said, but we can have them data analysis. We're going to have them write papers. We're going to have them do student presentations. And he said, as I think about it, we're going to be able to achieve almost all the learning goals of junior lab this coming semester. So please get people thinking like that, and we'll see where we end up. But this highlights that we need compromise and flexibility. We don't have a year to plan this. We start on March 30th. So we'll need to make compromises. We'll need to be flexible. An example of a compromise that's already been made, 60001, Eric Grimson, John Gutag, Anna Bell, their final exam, not midterm, but final exam. So midterms that were scheduled for this week can be postponed and done remotely. Final exam was supposed to be next week, so it's canceled. And that's the final exam because theirs is a half-term subject. Eric, John, and Anna have decided to give credit for 60001 based on work done prior to the final exam. And for those who want a final exam in order to try to pull their grade up, they'll offer a final exam for 60001 in May during finals week. Very nice example of flexibility and compromise. So as Ian and I have much discussed, we're not going to get everything taught that we normally do. We all will have to reach our own version of 2/3 is okay. And I don't mean that in a quantitative sense. But what I mean is that in each of our classes, we'll have to find the creative ways to do the 2/3 that we can, or maybe the 80% in some cases, maybe even the 90% in some cases. It'll never be 100%. And in some cases, it'll only be 2/3. So I will end by saying all of us are in this together. We're all working together. It's been a small group of us for the last week, 10 days. Now it's 1,000 of us. And none of us have ever done this before. None of us have done anything like this before. No, zero of us, not Ian, not me, not Cheryl, not Janet, not Mark, none of you. None of us have done anything like this before. So we will navigate together. We will be making course corrections all the time. We'll plan as we go, and then we'll change our plan the next day. We'll be creative, we'll be flexible, and we'll deliver to our students something that we can be proud of given the circumstances. And I'll end as I began by saying the first question to ask anyone is, what's your plan? How do you want to do this? What's your best way of doing this? What's the best that you think you can do? And then please help at the department level, and we're here to help also.